My husband, 30 male, and I, 28 female, have been married for 4 years, and we have a beautiful baby girl who just turned 1. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we were happy. That illusion was shattered last year, while I was 6 months pregnant, when I discovered my husband had been having an affair. What made the situation even worse was learning that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law actively supported his infidelity. From the beginning of my relationship with my husband, his mother never liked me. She's one of those women who sees her son as the center of her universe and views everyone who gets too close as a threat. When we first started dating, she made snide remarks about how I wasn't his type. She even once told me, half jokingly, that she'd always imagined her son marrying someone more refined. My husband brushed it off, saying that's just how she is, and assured me she'd warm up to me over time. Spoiler alert, she didn't. When we got married, her disapproval became even more blatant. She criticized my cooking, my career. I'm a teacher, and she thinks it's a waste of potential. And even how I decorated our home. She would make passive-aggressive comments about how my husband deserved the best, and imply I wasn't it. I tried to keep the peace for my husband's sake, but her constant undermining took a toll on me. Enter Anna. Anna, 25 female, is the daughter of one of my mother-in-law's closest friends. I knew Anna's mother well. She and my mother-in-law often had lunch together and were part of the same social circle. Anna herself was a mystery to me. I'd never met her because she'd been living out of state for years. She was married and had a life elsewhere, so she wasn't on my radar. That changed last year. Anna divorced her husband and moved back to her hometown to start fresh. According to my mother-in-law, Anna was going through a tough time, and she wanted to help her. What my mother-in-law failed to mention was that her idea of helping involved playing matchmaker with my husband. I found out later that it started with a dinner party at my mother-in-law's house. I was heavily pregnant at the time and wasn't feeling well, so my husband went alone. Unbeknownst to me, Anna was there. My mother-in-law made a big show of introducing them, emphasizing how much they had in common. Apparently, they hit it off because after that night, my husband started finding excuses to visit his mom more often. I had no idea those visits involved Anna. My sister-in-law was complicit in the whole thing. When my husband started sneaking out to meet Anna, she covered for him. If I called or texted to ask where he was, my sister-in-law would lie and say he was with her. She even once claimed they'd gone shopping for baby stuff together. Looking back, all the pieces fit together perfectly. But at the time, I was too focused on my pregnancy to see the signs. I only discovered the affair because Anna contacted me directly. One night, out of the blue, I got a message from her. She introduced herself and said she thought it was time I knew the truth. She told me she and my husband were in love and that he was planning to leave me after the baby was born. She claimed his family adored her and couldn't stand me. She even said my mother-in-law encouraged their relationship because she believed Anna was a better match for her son. I was blindsided. I confronted my husband, who initially denied everything. But when I showed him Anna's messages, complete with screenshots of their conversations and photos of them together, he broke down and admitted it. He tried to spin it as a mistake, saying he'd been pressured by his mom and that Anna didn't mean anything to him. He begged me to forgive him and promised to end the affair immediately. I wanted to leave, but I was 6 months pregnant and terrified of raising a child on my own. Against my better judgment, I decided to stay and try to work things out. My husband cut contact with Anna, or so he said, and we started therapy. I told him I'd give him one chance to make things right, for our child's sake. His family, however, made things unbearable. My mother-in-law didn't even pretend to apologize. She brushed the whole thing off as a misunderstanding and told me I needed to let it go for the sake of the family. She continued to sing Anna's praises, describing her as sweet, kind, and exactly the kind of girl her son deserves. My sister-in-law was just as bad, constantly downplaying the affair and acting like I was overreacting. They made it clear they didn't think I belonged in the family and that they'd be perfectly happy if Anna replaced me. Fast forward to this year. Things between me and my husband's family have been tense, but I've tried to maintain some level of civility for the sake of my daughter. When my mother-in-law invited us to Thanksgiving dinner, I agreed, thinking it would be a good opportunity for my daughter to spend time with her extended family. Then my husband casually mentioned that Anna and her mother would be there. I was stunned. I asked him why his mother would invite the woman who tried to destroy our marriage, and he just shrugged, saying, "You know how close my mom is to Anna's family." He told me it wasn't about picking sides, and that I should just be civil for a few hours. Civil? To the woman who slept with my husband while I was pregnant? To the family that encouraged her? Absolutely not. I told my husband I wouldn't go, and he accused me of being dramatic. My mother-in-law called me ungrateful and said I was ruining Thanksgiving. My sister-in-law chimed in, accusing me of holding a grudge and making things harder for everyone. Even my husband seemed annoyed, saying, "Can't you just let it go?" I told him he was free to go without me, but I wasn't going to subject myself to that kind of humiliation. Now, everyone is furious with me, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm the unreasonable one. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to go? Are you kidding me? OP's mother-in-law introduced OP's husband to Anna and encouraged their affair. And now she has the audacity to invite her to Thanksgiving? That's beyond disrespectful. It's malicious. OP has every right to refuse to go. OP's husband should be backing OP 100% on this. But instead, he's asking OP to be civil? No. He needs to take a long, hard look at his priorities. And honestly, why is OP still married to this man? And now let's hear the community's opinion. Holy crap, this is a nightmare scenario. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law sounds like she's trying to sabotage your marriage, and your husband is letting her get away with it. The fact that Anna is so bold as to flaunt her affair in your face, and then accept an invite to Thanksgiving with your family, tells me she thinks she's already won. Do not let these people gaslight you into thinking you're the problem. Stand your ground. This isn't just a family squabble. This is outright aggression. Your mother-in-law doesn't dislike you. She's actively trying to replace you with Anna. Your husband's silence is deafening. He should be protecting you and setting boundaries with his family. But instead, he's enabling them. You are not the a-hole, but you should seriously consider whether this marriage is worth salvaging if he continues to let his mother and Anna disrespect you. I cannot believe the audacity of everyone in this situation. Your mother-in-law? Toxic. Your sister-in-law? Enabling. Anna? Shameless. And your husband? Spineless. You're not overreacting. You're underreacting, if anything. Honestly, this family sounds like a lost cause. The fact that your husband is even entertaining the idea of you sitting across the table from his mistress is proof that he doesn't respect you. Not the a-hole, and I hope you seriously rethink your place in this marriage. Update. I went to Thanksgiving, and it was a complete disaster. Against my better judgment, I decided to go. My husband convinced me that showing up would prove I was the bigger person and would help keep the peace. I didn't want to give his family more ammunition to paint me as the problem, so I reluctantly agreed. From the moment we arrived, I knew I'd made a mistake. My mother-in-law greeted Anna like she was her actual daughter-in-law, hugging her and telling her how stunning she looked. Meanwhile, I got a curt nod and a half-hearted hello. Anna, of course, was dressed to perfection and radiating smug confidence. She knew exactly what she was doing. Dinner was unbearable. Anna sat across from me, laughing and chatting with everyone like she belonged there. She made flirty, passive-aggressive comments toward my husband, reminiscing about their good times together, and joking about how my mother-in-law would love having her as a stepdaughter. My mother-in-law smiled and said, "Well, you know I always have." I could barely eat. My sister-in-law kept giving me smug little glances, clearly enjoying the tension. My husband sat there, silent, avoiding eye contact with me. His inaction felt like a betrayal all over again. The final straw came when Anna said she missed spending time with my husband. I snapped. I told her to leave and said her presence was a slap in the face to me and my marriage. The room went silent. My mother-in-law immediately jumped to Anna's defense, accusing me of being rude and causing unnecessary drama. She said Anna was like family and that if I was uncomfortable, I should leave. That was it for me. I stood up, grabbed my daughter, and told my mother-in-law she could have Anna if she wanted her so badly. I walked out, shaking with anger and tears streaming down my face. When we got home, I told my husband I was done. I told him his silence at the table was just as hurtful as the affair itself. He tried to apologize, but it was too little too late. I told him I wanted a divorce. This has been the hardest decision of my life, but I know it's the right one. I refuse to stay in a marriage where I'm constantly disrespected, and I refuse to let my daughter grow up thinking this is normal. As for my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and Anna, they can have each other. I'm choosing myself and my daughter, and we're going to build a life filled with love, respect, and dignity. When I was 6 years old, my mother and father got divorced when my father cheated on her and had my baby sister. My mother was devastated and went into depression soon after. My grandfather, paternal, was really upset with my father. He cut ties with him and only visited me. My father remarried my sister's mother, much to my grandfather's disapproval. I alternate between my father and mother during this time. I am fairly close to my sister and don't resent her, but the rest of my paternal family has disowned my father and his new family. As a result, people didn't interact with my sister and often gave her the cold shoulder. I'm not sure if this affected her, but I don't think so. My grandfather passed away recently. He was a well-to-do man. He deemed me his successor and handed almost everything to me. I knew this from the beginning, though. He had been feeling ill and told me how he was managing his estate. So I'm now a very rich 25-year-old. He did tell me not to give anything to my sister. He went into detail about how my father treated her versus me, and this was his atonement. I told him I'd take all of it with me. Now my sister has found out about the will, and she is not happy. She feels sad that she didn't get anything. She's not poor by any means. My father is paying for her college, but she'll nowhere get anything like what my grandfather gave me. Anyway, my father wants me to give my sister a part of the estate because she is just as much related to my grandfather. I know my sister talked to him about this, and I do feel bad, but I don't know what to do. Your father has some serious balls to be demanding that you do anything. You said you already planned to give her money for a wedding or house. I'd tell her that. I'd be inclined to speak to a financial planner, as giving the money now may have tax benefits, but giving the money later and investing now may grow the funds rather significantly, making you able to give her even more down the road if you choose to. Once it's your money, it's yours to do with as you wish. I'd tell them you're investigating options and you will share your plan with them when you have one. For a little context, I originate from an African country. I come from a wealthy and prestigious family. My grandfather made his name, passed it on to my dad, who made a bigger name, and since I'm the only male among my siblings, got 2 younger sisters, I'm expected to follow in the same trend. All that, though, is probably going to go down the toilet because of the woman I love. She doesn't come from prestige or money, far from it. Before I met her, she couldn't even afford to buy socks of her own. I met her through one of the maids that work at my parents' house. My girlfriend and the housemaid are neighbors, and we met when I dropped off the housemaid one day. I became captivated by my girlfriend after speaking to her for like 5 minutes. We've been a couple for 18 months, and I've never felt this way about a woman. Honestly, I love her so much, I feel like I'm going to explode sometimes. I want to marry her. I want to have children with her. My parents object. They object a lot. I was with my girlfriend for 10 months before telling them about her. I waited that long on purpose because I knew they would disapprove. However, their reaction to our relationship has been more hostile than I thought it would be. I thought they would be fierce at first, but perhaps come around, especially my mother. Unfortunately, this isn't the case. They have threatened to cut me off if I don't end it. Emotionally, financially, everything. My dad has told me he will write me out of his will if I don't end it within 2 months. We're 1 month in now. My parents have described my girlfriend as trash and that she isn't fit to walk on the same side of the street as me. All this because she comes from a very poor family. They say she isn't fit to bear the grandchildren that will one day take over my dad's company through me. I work for my father's company. Because I'm his son, I hold a very high position for my age, and I get very good money for my age. I'd also like to think I'm good at my job. My dad told me that if I didn't end it, he'll fire me. I've actually started looking for other jobs on the sly because of the situation I'm in. I'll be severely ducked if I do get fired. I live alone and have a lot of bills to pay. What confounds the situation is that I'm paying for my girlfriend's education. Despite her poor economic background hampering her studies, she's really intelligent. She's about to finish a diploma in telecommunications in June. She'll begin a degree later in the year. I'm determined she gets that bachelor's degree, even if I get fired and have to rob a bank in order to pay for her education. My girlfriend also has 9 younger siblings. Yeah, crazy, I know. And they have their own problems and needs that I also take care of. My parents are also R. They don't only object to my girlfriend because of her social and economic status, but because she isn't black, because she is colored, mixed. I received my bachelor's degree at a British university, and I know that using that word to describe someone who is mixed or black in the UK can be considered offensive, and are. But here in Africa, colored people are what we use to describe mixed people. My girlfriend is a mixture of black and Arab. Most colored people here are that mix. Goes back to the Arab slave trade on the East African coast back in the day. And although my girlfriend is not very devout, she identifies as a Muslim, which is a huge no-no in my family. We're Christians, and something that my parents also loathe about her. Dude, I'm African from a well-to-do family. Americans will not get it. Seriously, you are too young to put your whole future at risk. Break up with her and keep financially helping her to soothe your conscience. Start saving and make yourself indispensable to the company, to the point where you know more than your dad. You should be putting yourself to be in a position by 32. You are too young to be thinking with those rose-tinted glasses. Honestly, man. My brother was here and he met someone else. You will meet someone else. Being broke in Africa is not funny at all. I have experience of parents who say, do this or we will cut you off. You give in to this, then they have control of you for life. Because there will be another occasion where you will disagree, and they will threaten the same again, and again, and again. You will be under their thumb for your whole life. Now, you may decide that it makes sense to accept that. Okay, fine. But also know this. There is a very high probability that they will either A, lose all their money before you inherit it anyway, or B, they will have some deathbed argument or mad moment and will leave it to their dogs or some charity or someone that is not you. I have seen B happen, twice. Or you may break free, which, as you say, will be incredibly hard and will drag both you and her down. So perhaps you start saving money, lying about not seeing her, and make a 1, 2, 3-year plan to be independent. My younger sister keeps putting my niece into those creepy pageants you see on Toddlers and Tiaras, and making my niece an Instagram model, and has basically chucked a tantrum and is trying to make my whole family turn on me because I refuse to be supportive of it. She has admitted outright that she is doing it because it means she doesn't have to get a job, because the prize money and the money these Instagram companies pay her for pictures of my niece mean she doesn't have to work. Well, that's what she claims. I do know for a fact her husband basically works overtime every day to pay for this pageant crap and seems to resent it, but doesn't seem to have the balls to stand up to her either. I see him smirking a little every time I call my sister out. My sister is angry because I always refuse to share those overly airbrushed toddler pictures on Facebook and encouraging my friends to vote for them. Google Toddlers and Tiaras headshots and get an idea of what I mean. Those pictures are creepy as hell and don't even look like my niece by the time they have been edited to hell and back. They are all like ducking vector images someone made in Photoshop. When visiting family last week, I eventually snapped at my sister that what she is doing is ducking gross. She is over-actualizing her child and wasting tons of money on dresses that could be better used on a college fund, because when she's 18, she's going to want a college fund, not some cheap tiaras and sashes, declaring her ultimate grand supreme at the Little Miss Sunshine 2016 pageant. I told her she is trying to use her as a meal ticket, and I will not support it. She's now lost her crap and is trying to tell my parents if they don't disown me for criticizing her parenting, they will never see my niece again. Here's the thing, I don't regret what I said, but I also don't want my parents to be punished by losing their grandchild. See, firstly, I find my sister's behavior repulsive. Kids are not supposed to be your meal tickets, so you don't have to go and get a job. And she could not have picked a more repulsive means to do this. These kiddie pageants make me sick, and the way they hyper-actualize kids. I've been back home, and my sister has been teaching my niece S-walk. It makes me sick. I've seen a video of my niece doing wildly age-inappropriate dance routines. I had to turn it off halfway through because it was literally making me feel like a perv. My niece has been putting clothes I wouldn't even wear to a club, and I am a grown adult and not prudish. My niece is not even 3 and wears false eyelashes. I'm an adult who has never wore them. It's all disgusting. Secondly, I really don't want to be seen as supporting it. I have a professional career and have colleagues and people I graduated with on Facebook, and the last thing I want them to see, me endorsing these pageants. It would reflect very badly on me. I already have to fight a little to be seen as smart and capable, and not a ditzy dumb Southern belle just waiting for a mister, and this would undo all that hard work. I also don't want my friends to see me supporting this disgusting garbage. They'll think less of me, and I can't blame them. But if I don't, my sister is going to punish my parents. It is so ducked up. What should I do? Oh, Lordy. I understand this too well. So much sympathy for your position here. I'm going to take a different perspective on this and say that if there is any way you can bury the hatchet with your sister, short of reposting the creepy headshots on your main Facebook or Instagram accounts, you really should think about it. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to be the cool aunt who buys her niece Legos and books, supports her interests in animals, musical instruments, gymnastics, or nerdy fantasy stuff, and eventually lets her visit on spring break, takes her out to local theater productions, encourages her to try on that black lipstick at Sephora, and helps her pick a college. If you are able to help set anything aside for a college fund to help her out financially, consider doing so. Your education was your escape hatch, and you could help your niece find that too. As a living example that a person can be Southern, female, educated, happy, and successful outside of the extremely narrow model her mother is forcing her into, but only if you find a way to stick around. I, 25 male, have been with my fiancée, 26 female, for 7 years. I proposed in fall 2019, and our relationship at the time was healthy and stable. 2020 was a year like no other, and I did not initiate planning any wedding for the entire year. On January 1st, 2021, I was presented with an ultimatum, which was, we need to be legally married by December 31st, 2021, and if we weren't by that deadline, then the relationship is over, because I'm wasting her time. I would have preferred to set a goal time frame without the caveat, but agreed to work towards something. We began planning, and she stated she did not want a wedding of any sort, due to her view that it's a waste of money, and that money can support the purchase of a home, and that because my family hasn't been the nicest to her previously, she would prefer not to have them around on the special day. I knew this was going to be an issue with my family. I have a big family, and I rejected the offer and tried to negotiate something on a small scale. I was met with ultimatums. Either we do a courthouse with just us, or I'm leaving the relationship. I folded and agreed to the courthouse. A few months go by with multiple proposals, and it's July, and she shares we can have a small gathering after the courthouse with up to 28 people, which would be split 14-14. I shared the news with family, and they were discontent with the small amount and begged for something to accommodate more people. She disagreed and kept reminding me of the ultimatum. After seeing the toll it was taking on me from having my family threaten to not attend altogether, disown, not accept the marriage, etc., she agreed to having a wedding reception, with a note that I would need to pay for all of it and that she would not contribute to it financially since she never wanted it. I agreed and shared a $30,000 budget, and for it to be in the first 3 months of 2022, because there was no way we could meet the deadline of 2021 with such short notice. She began planning and is choosing extravagant options such as drapes, floor wraps, and non-essentials, and recently shared the estimated total is $39,000, well over $30,000 budget. I asked her to cut back on non-essentials, extra flowers, floor wraps, drapes, to meet the budget, and was told these were non-negotiable. I asked if she can contribute $9,000 and was told no. Because this was much higher than what I financially planned for, I asked for additional time to save the money, and we would have to push the wedding date out, and was told there is no time that can be given, and if it doesn't happen on this date, then the relationship is over. What do you advise in this scenario? I can gather the 9K by the deadline, but would prefer to stick to the budget. So wait. She actively wants not to have a reception and has been threatening all along to leave you if you don't comply with her demands. And the only reason you want to have a reception is to appease your family, who is threatening to disown you and to not acknowledge your marriage if you don't comply with their demands. And you're voluntarily choosing to spend 30,000 American dollars on this party for manipulators by manipulators. You have at least 3 problems, and one of them is that you apparently can't stand up to anyone. This isn't a healthy relationship, my man. She has way too much power over you, or you have way too little self-respect, probably a little of both. You realize she is going to use these same tactics to get the house she wants, have when she wants, basically control all major decisions in the relationship. This is going to cause you to resent her and cause her to lose all respect for you.